Welcome back, everybody. We are in our final hour together, so we have 2 more panels for you to kind of wrap up the day. And the way that we framed these panels was we have been having conversations with different DMOs over the past, I'd say like probably 6 to 7 months or so. And we've been talking about the work that they've been doing. And we kept seeing these kind of common threads between these themes and these discussions. And so we ended up kind of grouping a few folks together and asking if they would sit down and do a panel. And so I have the joy of doing a panel with a couple of folks who I've had a great time with over the past few weeks, talking about everything from dogs to Halloween to many, many other things. And so they're gonna join me up on stage today, and we're gonna talk about how to leverage locals and how to build community. So both of these speakers, these destination marketers, are pros in their community. They are living and breathing everything about where they live and where they come from, and then translating that back to the travelers. So we're gonna talk all about it, but please welcome Kyle Johnson and Maria Skrzynski. Did I get it right, Maria? I was supposed to ask that at the beginning. I also told Kyle that I was going to spill the beans that he has a dog Instagram account. So Kyle, what's the handle? Will you tell us about the dog?
It's Hiking with Hickory.
So follow Hickory, he's great.
If there are good photos, they're taken by my wife.
So today, like, it's a rapid fire. We've got 30 minutes. So these two are well prepared, and I'm just gonna grill them for the next little bit about their engagement with locals. So Kyle, you're gonna kick it off. Do we have the clicker? Yeah. Clearly, I should have had 2 mocktails. Kyle's got the clicker. He's going to kick us off. And we're going to kind of start with Kyle's work. And, you know, something that we hear all the time in tourism is a good place to live is a good place to visit. But in your destination, you're kind of changing the order of that. And so will you tell us about your role and what's happening in Indiana right now?
Yeah, to answer that, I have to go back a little bit. In July of 2020, what was the Indiana Office of Tourism Development became the Indiana Destination Development Corporation. And with that change, we added some new goals. And among those, retaining graduates from our universities to live in Indiana and attracting talent to work in Indiana. And so my role is Director of Visitor Conversion to actually target our visitors to the state to come back as residents. So our research shows that Indiana, one of the challenges we have is people outside of Indiana and the surrounding states don't necessarily have negative perceptions of our state. They have no perceptions of Indiana. I actually had a conversation yesterday where that literally came up. And so what we have found in our research is people that have seen our advertising and recall it have a 25% higher likelihood to view Indiana favorably. And then people who have seen our advertising and made a visit, that number goes up to 50%. And so what we have to do is get people to see us and create those perceptions, and so that we can do that. So from a visitor perspective, that's a good low-hanging fruit to attract new residents. One of the other things we have in Indiana is we're a Midwestern state. And Midwesterners, and specifically Hoosiers, are very humble, don't take compliments very well. I am the same with that. And I like to tell a story that someone walks out their front door in Indiana, they look to the right, they look to the left, and they say, there's nothing to do here. And so we have taken it as a challenge, especially since the pandemic descended upon us, to get Hoosiers out and about around the state to experience Indiana and to see all of the things that there are to do. And so with that, we're hoping we can create that visitor bump, that 50% visitor bump among our local residents, because we know that if we create a state that people want to visit, if we create a state that we think people want to move to, we need to have the residents agree with that. So we launched a new brand in June of this year. I'm not supposed to say the B word, brand. It's not a brand, it's a campaign. So it is in Indiana, and in Indiana is very simple. It gets the point across. It doesn't take a lot of explanation to use in Indiana and someone understand what you're talking about. But it's very versatile, and you can use it with Life is Better, more to explore, tons of different variations. And so as we're planning for that launch, we knew that we needed local buy-in from our communities around the state. And so I came up with an idea to do a grant program. We've done grant programs in the past to fund large projects, but I thought, what if we did small projects and funded public art that would feature our campaign in different communities around the state. Our CEO loved that idea, and more importantly, she gave me a budget line item. And so we actually took applications. The catch with that was we asked them to submit an application before they knew what that campaign looked like. And so they submitted a location, so we would say, is this a very visible location? And they submitted an artist with work samples, and we would say, does this artist have quality of work that would work for us? And so we ended up with 70 applicants, and we funded 46 of these projects. And some of them are complete, some of them are still in the works. So as you'll see, I'll flip through some of these as I go forward. But the thing we like most about this is each and every community in Indiana has a different cultural background, different goals and different things they prioritize. But the fact that they are in Indiana really changes, and it unites us. And so as you see, we had some of these were done by regional artists with some acclaim, and some of them are completed by a local high school art teacher. So just a really cool program to see all of the different ways you could implement in Indiana and get people to identify with it. And so one of the things that we've seen as goals from this, one, we created photo opportunities for people to engage on social media with our brand. I'm just not supposed to say that word. And then we have also created an opportunity for all these communities to get involved in our new campaign and go on from there.
All of our notes said not brand in big caps and bold.
I said it twice.
I was trying to train myself not to say it. I've had some conversations over the past couple days with a few different folks about what it's like when our travelers land and the cab driver's why are you here? And kind of doing that education piece. And so for you, you're building perception from scratch. And can you just talk about what that's like instead of having to kind of myth bust, you're building it?
Yeah, and the past 6 years, I worked in digital media. And so I was doing social, I was doing our digital marketing. And so we've been in the business, in the traveler space, of trying to surprise people, show them a visual that challenges what they think of Indiana. And so I think we do the same thing now, but this new identifier, the new campaign, really it makes that simple. You can show a striking image, you can show Indiana Dunes National Park and this beautiful beach, and it says in Indiana. And it's not something someone expects. You can show a canyon or our great geography and really challenge what people see in Indiana.
The power of those visuals is there for sure. So Maria, we're going to pass it over to you for a little bit. Okay. You've been with Destination and Arbor for 4 years now and managing the Ipsy Real brand. When you joined, what was important to you in terms of bringing your local focus into your marketing work, and how did that kind of determine how you showed up?
Sure. So Destination Ann Arbor is a county-wide organization, and so we have 7 different communities within that. And we have an Ipsy Real brand or title that highlights Ypsilanti, Michigan, which is about 20 minutes west of Detroit. And that's where my focus is. So before I got hired, I'm a resident of Ypsilanti, and I organized a meetup group, if you're familiar with meetup.com. I was trying to find my own community there, within Ypsilanti, and I created a group called Ypsilanti 20s and 30s, and we've hosted hundreds of events. We have 2,500 members in it now. And I bring that up because it was a great way to experience the city and learn a lot of things that I just didn't know or explore, as being there for the last 4 years and so. So that was really exciting. And I met business owners. I was able to connect with the people that live there and really see who was making up Ypsilanti. So when I did get hired here, it was a really easy transition. And I wanted to kind of just pull some screenshots and showcase it. As you see, that's our homepage on the one side. There's an emphasis on here is real. And the topic of discussion this week has been authenticity, something that we of course pride ourselves on. And this is all user-generated content as well, with the exception of the top post from the restaurant and the staff. That was because we were invited out to a special event. They saw the work that we were doing within the community, so they invited us out, and we had such a fun time. We did a little photo shoot with them. But it was a way that we were being recognized, and it was really nice to see that. So it just kind of all ties back to showing those really interesting places that I discovered through the meetup and how we connected with the business owners, and showcasing more than just the top 5 attractions, and not framing it as off the beaten path hidden gems, because Ypsi is off the beat, period, that it's off the beaten path. So it just kind of put a nice bow on it, I suppose.
So in that brand exploration, what came first, sort of the move towards authenticity and what's real, or did all of that kind of emerge as a branding exercise that you did around Ypsi Real?
So they really go hand in hand, the authenticity and the exploration. And the title Ypsi Real came before my time, so it was already developed. However, if you go to Ypsilanti and you talk to anybody, or you see what's going on, you'll really see those themes sort of emerge. So they go hand in hand, and the local love really shines. And these, again, are all user-generated content, with the exception of one, but I will get to that in a minute. And when I think of the word authenticity, it's true. We want to showcase our destinations authentically. But, as someone who lives as authentically as I possibly can and do it every day, I wanted to take it further and really make sure that I'm being intentional with what we're sharing and who's sharing it with us, and just really showcasing that aspect in a purposeful and meaningful way. So some of these, I just pulled some of my favorites that I've shared. The Ypsilanti Heritage, he's someone that he's a community member, he's a rapper, and so he'll tag us in his music, but it's not, we don't typically share personal things like that. But when he would message us and he would send it to us, we'd say thank you, keep us posted on the next one. And we were building relationships with community members who were interested in collaborating with us. So while it wasn't necessarily an opportunity to build something from, we start to develop a relationship, and they kind of see what we're interested in just as far as what our work is. So he shared that with us, and I thought that was really special. I like that it's a reflection. He's really proud of his city. So it was just a really great opportunity. And of course, he was happy that we shared that. And then we gained followers because he shared our share and everything like that. And I also I wanted to put this on there with the Rosies, because it also goes back to our culture and the roots of Ypsilanti, really. This was an exciting event that just fits the category really well, because we had an old bomber plant that created planes back for World War II. So when the women went to work, Rosie the Riveter kind of became an unofficial icon of Ypsilanti. And so Ypsi now holds the world record for the most people dressed as Rosie the Riveter in one place. And the old plant is now a museum, and that's where it was organized. So there was over 3,700 people there, which was just, really interesting and unique to see. That brought residents, visitors, and original Rosies who, went to work back in the day, and some of them were able to share their experiences, which is really cool to hear. And one more on this slide I wanted to share. This was an event that happened last month, and it was an addition to our Festival of the Pollinators. We're a certified bee city, so we do, we have a big festival, and it's really fun. And a local business owner came, she was just expressing this whole idea, this profound idea to me in passing, because, she had this great idea. And she's like, oh yeah, we're gonna bring pro wrestling in the street, and the bumblebee is gonna face the pesticides, and who's gonna win, and interactive art, there's gonna be a doctor giving prescriptions for discounts at stores. And, I was like, that sounds great. It sounds like totally Ypsi, because we're not really like a sporty kind of, Ann Arbor definitely, biggest stadium in the country for football, but Ypsi's not so much. And so we were at this event, this is in our historic depot town, and the street was filled. It was just incredible. The energy was alive. This picture is right after the Bumblebee won against the pesticide. And it was really great, and just kind of reminded me of like, yeah, this is what I'm doing this for. It was great. There was so many people out. So a really, really cool opportunity.
What I loved about this example when we talked about it a few weeks ago was it's just this like super playful way to talk about what's important to your community, those values of keeping the bees and the sustainability of a pollinator festival and being a bee certified city, and just taking it to that next level of like, well, let's just have them wrestle in the street. Right? That's how you have conversations and make it educational for kids and travelers alike. So I was really stoked on this example, for sure.
Yeah, I was a big wrestling fan when this was said. I was like, yeah.
Did you also dress up as a riveter?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Next time?
Next time.
I'm curious to hear from both of you, sort of what changed visually when you're curating UGC or you're prepping different shoots and acquiring content, when you started to focus on the resident lens as opposed to trying to capture what the traveler might want to see. So maybe Maria, we'll start with you.
Yes, okay. I pulled a couple examples. I am very visual, so this, it's really nice to see. This is all user-generated content as well. The top ones were all from residents. The bottom is like a mixture of residents and visitors. However, we get to see it in how they're experiencing day-to-day life versus like a big major event like the one we just saw, or like, a weekend getaway. These are people that are living every day. And I wanted to point out the middle one because that is a big panoramic drone view, which not everyone has access to do that. He was just happened to be a resident. And it's a Black Lives Matter mural. And I put it on there because it was our best performing post of all time on our Instagram and Facebook pages. But I don't know if you can read the copy on that, but the first line says, the Ypsilanti community showed up to create this mural, or however it goes. And the fact that, it was specifically, I was happy to say that the community did this and, came together to support a message of welcome and inclusivity. So it was, obviously that resonated, and it was kind of like a check mark to see like that it was working, like just the community connection and how we wanted to bring people out. And it was really just, I don't know, a good motivator to see that we were on the right track.
Thank you. Kyle, how about you?
Yeah, I'm like I said, my background was in social media, and our marketing director, if we get something from our agency with visuals, and they don't really do it for me, and should look at me, and so I like, well, we've got 3 pictures of this and 3 pictures of this could work, and then I send them a CrowdRiff link. So, what's interesting in my change in role is the things that we would never show on a visitor-focused agenda, are kind of the most important things when you're trying to get someone to make a move. We're not trying to sell a weekend getaway. We're literally changing their life. And so schools and community groups and public transportation and all of these things that on a DMO side, trying to bring a visitor there may not be forefront and what you would put out there, but they're literally the most important things. And so as I'm working on, the parts of our website, for trying to bring people to Indiana to live, those are the things that move to the top. And so I think that's an interesting thing to think about, if anyone else gets into this area.
Definitely. What I loved about the mural project in particular is just how circular it is. So, you're creating something for the travelers, you're building a new experience, you're building a vibrant community, but you're also like directly supporting the artists. And so you're taking all of these different components and tying it together. And I think as marketers in the destination space, we're, you know, if we have the privilege of having a destination development team, maybe sometimes the relationships aren't there, or we're siloed off in terms of like budget lines, right? Or strategic priorities. And so can you just kind of break down for us, like, what have been your key learnings in bridging the destination development work into the marketing space and vice versa?
Yeah, I think that one of the things, and you know, being in that digital media side, you know, when TikTok started blowing up and they were like, well, we need to be on TikTok. And I was like, over my dead body, are we adding another channel for me to manage? But, you know, you look at it and you say, well, what's the opportunity there? And, you know, with this grant program, each of these grants, it's non-matching, so it was $5,000. If they wanted to spend more than $5,000, they had to cover that cost. But we would cover everything up to $5,000. And we asked them to keep the murals up, to commit to keep the murals, a couple of them are sculptures, up for at least 10 years. And so 10 years is almost 4,000 days. And so at $5,000, just math-wise, that's a pretty good ad buy. And so that's the thing where I'm trying to, what's the impact we can create? What is the, you know, what are the side effects of that? You know, if we put a mural up in, you know, small town Indiana, and Susie walks out her front door, she looks to the left, she sees nothing. She looks to the right, she sees the mural. Maybe we've changed that perception and, you know, really bought them into Indiana as a great place to be. And then they talk to family, and, you know, it all works together.
So we're all moving to Indiana.
You all should. Let me know so that I can keep track.
Can we send in like a mural request that we would like outside our front door if we move to Indiana?
It's a competitive process, but yes.
Sounds good. We'll put a Slido up for that later if you've got your mural request for Kyle. How does that sound?
You get to know what it's in Indiana now. You don't have to do it in blind.
You're right. So, you're right. Yeah. We've got a competitive advantage there. So Maria, you talked about being active in your community through the meetup group, and I know that this is something that's really important to you. You're often acting as an advocate for community pride in general and involvement with your residents. And so how have you been able, like the kind of really tactical components, how have you been able to build that rapport to drive tourism forward in your community?
Sure. You know, really, I'd say the number one is to be present and to show up and, you know, go to the events and attend the networking meetings that are happening, like, you know, locally within business owners. Often I go to like the downtown business owner meeting, but I'm not a business owner, but I'm listening and I'm hearing what the concerns are, what the positives are, and, you know, how can that relate back to what we do? I'm not going there to ask them, how does that drive overnight guests? Because that's not what we're focusing on right now for Ypsilanti. So it's just a great way to like listen and hear. And right here, I pulled some examples, and I really like this. And this is where we talked about Halloween, because it was at a networking event where there's an artist in Ypsilanti who, before I was involved, really just blew my mind out. You know, I was fangirling a little over her. And she's just a creative mind altogether. And she approached me at one of these networking events and was like, what do you think about marketing Ypsilanti as a Halloween destination? And I was like, yes, that's perfect. I want to do that. Because there's so many like really interesting and cool activities that happen. A few of which, Ypsi Glow, where it's like a big night parade. Everyone makes like a big luminary and it's just a glowing party. It's really cool. We have All Hallows Eve, where everyone brings their jack-o'-lanterns on November 1st and like puts it out in the park, lights it up. We have a Holy Bones Festival, lantern tours in the cemetery, a historic cemetery, which is really just beautiful. So a lot of really cool things that happen. So here's just like a snapshot of what it looks like when it goes out on social, and we're launching it. We're going to put some paid ads, going to be all over our website soon. And then another connection I just wanted to point out was this video, and I just got these clips recently, so I just kind of threw a couple things together. But this was just another example of working with a resident who was really interested in what we were doing, and this isn't a paid partnership or anything. He just found value in us sharing his stories, and of course we find value in what he does, which is indoor drone footage, and it's so cool. I was so captivated by what he does. So this video, it's not ready, but there's just a couple things here. So yeah, I just took like really quick clips, but you can see we're inside the Firehouse Museum. He went through the trucks. You're seeing it from a different perspective. You know, we were brainstorming and just collaborating on, you know, where we want to go next. And it's really cool. It's a new way to experience these places. And I'm going to make a whole reel series. I'm really excited. And not only that, but the man who owns the Michigan Firehouse Museum was so excited. He was like a little kid at the Firehouse Museum. He was like, I have a picture of him. He's pointing at a fire truck, and it's just so like, it's beneficial. Like, it's a win-win-win, literally. So I just wanted to kind of pull that example because that's one of our main attractions, and to showcase it in a totally new way that we've never explored before was a really exciting opportunity. And just one more, if you want to see the IPSI in October, it's the first landing page I've built, which I'm really proud of and excited. But this is like all the things of what's to come, and as more are available, they're going to come up and like they'll all be listed and we won't have to do any extra work, so that's really great.
I love that video. I haven't seen it yet, and so it was really fun. You were telling me about it. I was like, I don't really understand what that's going to look like yet, but it sounds cool, so let's put it in the deck.
Yeah.
And to me, like, it's an incredible sense of space. Like, you can tell what the experience is going to be like, which is a great way to hook in travelers, but that's also incredibly accessible. Because if someone is planning their trip, they can look and see kind of how everything relates and different, you know, entrance widths, that sort of thing. So, you know, in the thread of earlier. So just to kind of like follow up on this question, can you recommend like 3 ways that a destination can start to bring back some of that local focus into their marketing efforts?
Definitely. So number 1, I would say be present, show up, and really commit to that. Do it, you know, don't do it once a year or once a quarter. Like if it's monthly, show up as much as you can. But know your boundaries too, because that's something I also had to learn, and you know, just stretching too thin of doing everything. And the next is partner and connect. Reach out. If people are messaging you that aren't really necessarily what you're sharing, respond to them, talk to them, you know, just build those relationships. They will be an advocate for you. And lastly, if you're not already, social listening. I'm on, you know, a lot of Facebook local groups, and those can be, you know, some people can be really mean in there, but I don't post in there. But just listening to what people want to hear and see, and, you know, this is your local community, so they're telling you what they are interested in, and that's a great way to go into that.
I'm going to throw a surprise question at both of you because we have 3 minutes left. I was recently, maybe a few months ago, I was on a Riff call, and we were talking about getting out and capturing content with Zoe. All of you know Zoe, she's coming up later. And one of our, one of the Riff members that was on the call was asking about advice for getting out of the office. There seemed to be like procedural considerations, policies in that specific destination that was like, no, you should stay here. You can source UGC. But so how, like, did it take convincing to use your work time to go out and be a part of these meetings, or was that kind of baked in? And if you had to have that conversation, how would you approach it? Maria, we'll start with you.
I think I kind of had to prove myself, really. I was hired as an office manager, and I saw that, you know, as my foot in the door. I'm a marketing coordinator now, and I'm doing a lot of work. I'm on stage, you know, so there's been progress. But when I was hired, I wanted to, you know, be on the IPSI Pride board, and they were like, do you know what being on a board means? And I didn't, so things like that. And so, you know, over time, I did it anyway in my personal time, not on behalf of the organization. And that really, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but something's happening here. Kyle?
Sorry.
Yeah,
we can see the future up here, so.
I'm a big planner. I'm a big spreadsheet guy. So if I'm gonna go do something, I'm like, well, I'm gonna do it this, and then while I'm there, I can do this and this and this. And so when I go out into the state and do something, I typically have like 4 purposes. So that's kind of a, you know, if you just have that, you know, go to a boss and say, hey, I want to go do this, and they, you know, anticipate their question and answer it ahead of time. That's always a big help, I find.
So when you plan your trips, do you have like multiple tabs with all of your itinerary?
Yeah,
all set up
it
and ready
depends
to
on the
go?
task. It depends on the trip, yes. But
And in your personal life too?
in personal life, I'm much less organized.
I mean, you can't have everything all at once, right?
No,
Yeah.
no.
We've got about a minute left. If there's a burning question in the room, I'll pass it over for one question. But otherwise, we will say thank you and pass it over to the next folks. Any burning questions? You know where they are later, Taco Tuesday. So thank you so much, and get ready for the next one.